Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Frank Fritz, the beloved co-host of American Pickers, left this international on September 30th, 2024, on the age of 60. However, it wasn't just his surprising passing that stirred emotions among his family and pals. It became the staggering fortune he left behind, a fortune that would not only redefine how his own family saw him, however, additionally spark tears, tensions, and perhaps some surprises. But let's rewind the tape a little earlier than we dive into the millions left in his wake. Let's explore the very last moments of a person who lived lifestyles on the road, choosing through America's forgotten treasures, only to turn out to be one himself. It changed into no mystery that Frank's health were at the decline within the year's main, as much as his. He'd suffered a stroke in 2022, and complications from that cerebral infarction could sooner or later result in his passing 2 years later. Consistent with TMZ, the death certificate said the purpose as overdue sequela of cerebral infarction, a medical way of saying that the stroke had left lasting damage that his body could not get over. But that wasn't all. Frank was additionally struggling with aortic stenosis, a situation that makes it difficult for blood to flow properly via the coronary heart. It was a double blow, and even the most powerful pickers cannot haggle with fate. However, here's where it gets even more human. Regardless of the fitness problems and personal struggles, Frank's tale wasn't just about decline, it was about reconciliation specifically. Together with his longtime pal and co-host Mike Wolf, the two were thick as thieves, seeing that middle school bonding over a shared love of picking and growing up without their fathers. However, fame and fortune they have got a manner of setting cracks in even the strongest friendships. By way of 2021, their dating had hit rock backside. Frank, in an interview with Thiessen, wasn't shy, approximately airing the grimy laundry. He accused Mike of turning American Pickers into a one-man display, evaluating their dynamic to that of Steven Tyler and the relaxation of Aerosmith. The show has tilted closer to him 1.0%. Frank stated, "It's like you have Aerosmith and there's Steven Tyler. I located my spot, I'm second and he's quantity one on the show, ouch." But here's the twist. No one noticed coming after Frank's stroke in 2022. The two started to mend their broken friendship. With the aid of 2023, they were speak me once more, and Mike wasn't approximately to let his buddy pass without making things proper. "I got the decision that he wasn't doing properly," Mike informed humans. "Simply sense blessed that I become capable to get there." Mike described those very last moments with a tenderness that would soften even the hardest hearts. "I become there for approximately an hour earlier than he surpassed, and I became maintaining his hand and rubbing his chest whilst he took his final breath. I took my palms, and I closed his eyes, permit that sink in for a second. Guys who had shared more miles than maximum married couples, whose friendship had been tested by way of fame, fortune, and personal demons, observed closure within the quietest, most intimate manner viable." Mike told Frank he cherished him. He wasn't mad anymore, and whilst Frank became suffering, to grasp on Mike, whispered simply, "Move. Discover your mother. Move, find her right now, in that second." It wasn't about antiques, TV ratings, or petty feuds. It became approximately pals finding peace earlier than the final curtain fell. But Frank Fritz wasn't just a guy with a heartwarming tale. He changed into a man who became a childhood interest right into a multi-million greenback empire born in Davenport, Iowa. Frank had been a collector from the begin, rocks, beer cans, you name it. But it wasn't till his days as a hearth inspector, where he spent 25 years inspecting fireplace safety gadget, that he realized he should flip his passion for locating uncommon objects right into a profession. By the point American Pickers premiered on the History Channel in 2010, Frank was already a pro picker along Mike Wolf and Danielle Colby. Frank crisscrossed the country in seek of hidden treasures. Tucked away in barns, garages, and junkyards, the display Speedy have become a hit, resonating with visitors who cherished the fun of discovery and the nostalgia of forgotten Americana. Over 22 seasons and 300 episodes, American Pickers did not simply showcase antiques. It showcased Frank's sharp eye, an infectious ardor, his knack for spotting cost in what others dismissed as junk became him into a family name, And it wasn't just the TV show that coated his wallet. Frank authored 2 books: American Picker's Manual to Choosing in 2011 and How to Select Antique Bikes in 2013. They were bestsellers that cemented his recognition as an authority within the international of antiques and allows no longer neglect. Frank Fritz finds his vintage store in Savannah, Illinois. This changed into a thriving commercial enterprise that attracted collectors and lovers from throughout with the aid of the time of his loss of life. Frank's net well worth changed into, anticipated at a fab $6 million, that is, proper the man who once scoured junkyards for rusty signs and symptoms and antique motorcycle had amassed a fortune that many within the amusement enterprise could handiest dream. But right here's the kicker: what occurs to all that money when a person leaves at the back of a fortune like that? You'd count on some own family contributors to shed tears no longer, simply from grief. However, from the load of what has been left in the back of Frank's passing, didn't just leave an emotional void, it left a monetary legacy that might exchange the lives of his cherished ones forever. However, now not all tears are created identical. A few were tears of gratitude. Frank's generosity was widely known, and those closest to him knew he'd taken care of them in his very last days. However, there were additionally tears of regret, of neglected possibilities to reconcile, of phrases left unsaid, after which of path there were the inevitable tears of anxiety due to the fact, whilst millions are at stake, even the nearest households can find themselves at odds. However, what did Frank's will say, who stood to inherit his multi-million greenback estate, changed into its own family buddies, or perhaps even a person? Surprising, Frank had the foresight to record his will in court docket 12 months before his demise, on October 23, 2023, while his fitness had already been on a consistent decline after his 2022 stroke. Nobody anticipated things to spiral as speedy as they did. However, Frank wasn't one to go away matters to hazard, at the least not. Whilst it got here to his price range, the United States Sun stated that Midwest One Financial Institution, which had been appointed as his conservator following his stroke, was also named the executor of his estate. The desire itself sealed tight. Anything. Secrets lay within, were locked away. However, one thing turned into clear. The plans for his $6 million fortune were officially approved simply weeks after his demise on October 18, 2024. However permits, rewind to the moments main up to that. After Frank suffered his debilitating stroke in July 2022 at his Iowa farmhouse, it changed into greater than just a fitness scare. It was a turning factor that shifted the control of his existence from his very own arms into those of others. His decision-making ability became so impaired that he could not care for his primary desires: food, shelter, medical care. It wasn't long before loved ones filed for conservatorship and guardianship, thrusting Frank right into a criminal shape, wherein his financial and personal affairs were treated by way of others. Midwest One Bank controlled his finances, whilst his longtime friend, Chris Davis, stepped in as his guardian, overseeing everything from his Crohn's disease treatment to his physical therapy appointments. And then there has been the matter of his prized possessions, his sprawling series of antiques, antique motorcycles, and memorabilia that crammed out buildings, on his belongings like a museum of American nostalgia. The conservatorship papers discovered that even as those treasure hadn't been fully inventoried, the plan became to keep them largely as they had been, with pick-out objects used to stock his antique, save Frank Fritz finds in Savannah, Illinois. But what? Approximately his circle of relatives who have been the people left behind in the wake of Frank's passing, and how did they suit into the narrative of his fortune here's, wherein it receives complicated Frank by no means married, notwithstanding rumours that circulated in 2021. Approximately him tying the knot with his longtime female friend Diane, the truth that they had broken up well before his demise, their relationship collapsing underneath the weight of betrayal and heartbreak. In an interview with The Sun in July 2021, Frank discovered that he had been making plans to marry Diane, even shopping for a new residence for them. But even as he became on the road filming American Pickers, he located she had any other. Boyfriend back domestic athar my emotions, my self-esteem and my whole international. Frank admitted his response turned into to drown the pain in alcohol a choice that marked the start of a lengthy and painful warfare with addiction Diane for her. Part denied Frank's version of activities. It's no longer authentic. What is saying she told the Sun if he is seeking to make me appear to be the horrific character, of course I'm going to mention. It's now not actual because it's now not, but whether or not, or no longer. Her side of the tale. Held water, the damage had been carried out through 2019. The connection was over, and Frank became left picking up the portions of a life he notion he had found out. So without a spouse, or youngsters who did Frank. Keep in mind circle of relatives pals, that is who human beings like Chris Davis who became his guardian after this stroke, and Jerry Gendro, a longtime friend who spoke openly about Frank's very last months he felt really sincerely bad, Jerry recalled, describing visits to peer Frank within the nursing domestic, wherein one aspect of his body turned into completely paralyzed. He could elevate his arm up, and it'd simply drop. That's got to be difficult to be, definitely bedridden. Frank's frustration become palpable. He could not articulate what a desire to say, although some days had been better than others. Jerry summed it up in a manner that reduced proper to the middle. I assume Frank ought to have lived lots longer if the desire to stay might were. Thereafter which of path there has been Mike W. Wolfe, the man who had been both Frank's closest buddy and at instances his bitter rival. Their dating were a curler coaster from Center College Pauls to co-hosts of one of the History Channel's biggest suggests, after which to estranged colleagues. But by the point Frank's health took a turn for the worse, that they had located their way, returned to each other. However, for all the emotional closure, the query remained, did Mike Wolfe stand to inherit any part of Frank's fortune? It's tough to say, with the need see sealed the specifics of Frank's property distribution are shrouded in thriller. What we do recognize is that Frank's financial legacy was intricately tied to his antique collection and his keep. Fritz finds his friend Jerry hinted that a public sale is probably in the works, capitalizing on Frank's fan base to make certain that his treasures located homes with folks that clearly appreciated them. That is what I would do because of his fan base. Jerry stated, I assume he will, dow without a doubt really well with a public sale, and even as the vintage world buzzed with speculation approximately the destiny of Frank's collection. His own family, both biological and selected, grappled with the emotional weight of his passing. It wasn't just about the cash. It changed into about the man who'd left a lasting imprint on their lives, whose struggles with dependency and health had formed his very last years, in approaches that no amount of wealth should fix. Frank's struggle with addiction had been a long and painful one, stemming no longer just from heartbreak but from years of continual ache because of Crohn's sickness, and damaged back the latter required surgery in 2019, but recuperation became some distance from clean. Frank determined solace in painkillers, however, that solace fast spiraled into dependency. By the time he left American Pickers in 2020, his dependency was no longer a secret amongst those closest to him. Mike Wolfe, in particular, had witnessed the toll it took on his pal. Hay have become addicted to opioids, and that is. Whilst the whole lot modified, Mike admitted hestaged interventions encouraged bridged rehab, and in no way gave up wish that Frank should find his manner back, but simply howlets. Did Frank Fritz's conflict with addiction and fitness troubles cost him financially and emotionally? The answer may surprise you. At the height of his profession, Frank becomes sitting on a cushy $6 million nest egg, but by way of the time of his passing, a widespread slice of that fortune have been funneled directly into health care. We are no longer talking approximately recurring doctor visits, or the occasional prescription top-off. Frank becomes spending $30,000 a month on clinical and in-home care after his stroke in 2022. It really is nearly $36,000 a year, an outstanding figure that even a reality TV megastar could conflict to maintain for long. This wasn't pretty much sanatorium bills, the costs blanketed, spherical, the clock. Nursing, bodily therapy and specialized treatments to manipulate not best the aftermath of his stroke, however, additionally high. Disease and aortic stenosis, His Iowa farmhouse, once a haven full of antique motorcycles and uncommon antiques, needed to be retrofitted with clinical device and wheelchair ramps, turning it into extra of a care facility than a home nestled in Lir, Iowa. Frank's domestic become as humble and unpretentious as the man himself in the beginning, bought in 2010 for $130. 0. The modest 2-bedroom, 1-bath belongings spanned 1,660 square ft and sat on 3/4 of an acre. However, its value had tripled over the years, attaining $392,000 by using 2024. Right next door, he owned an extra parcel of land zoned for single own, family use similarly, including to the assets' worth. Yet notwithstanding the belongings' growing fee, it wasn't enough to offset the avalanche of scientific charges. The farmhouse, as soon as a symbol of his success and love for Americana, have become a silent witness to his final years marked through bodily decline and economic stress. But Frank Fritz became never pretty much money or fabric possessions his real legacy lies within the lives he touched and theatre he ignited in thousands and thousands of viewers. American Pickers wasn't just a TV show, it was a cultural phenomenon. Frank's sharp eye for antiques and his down-to-earth attraction grew to become forgotten relics into valuable artifacts he made, a C price inside the matters. We might otherwise overlook rusted gasoline, St. Signs vintage toys, vintage motorcycles. Gathering dust in a barn for Frank, every item had a story, and each tale was well worth telling. And it wasn't pretty much the antiques Frank's journey resonated with human beings due to the fact he turned into actual. He wasn't polished or rehearsed. He became the fellow, round the corner with a knack for locating hidden gemstones, and a heart complete of humour and humility. He battled Crohn's disease, brazenly sharing his struggles with fanatics who noticed their own health battles contemplated in his tale. He confronted dependency and heartbreak, displaying that even the humans we recognise maximum aren't immune to life's hardest demanding situations. After his departure from American Pickers in 2020, Frank persisted to have an effect on the antique world through his store, Frank Fritz Finds in Savannah, Illinois. While his health declined, the shop remained a hub for collectors and enthusiasts alike, an area in which Frank's spirit lived on via the treasures he'd unearthed over time, and now even after his passing, that legacy ought to maintains. Plans are in movement to auction off elements of his prized collection, a circulate that no longer most effective honours his lifelong passion, but also enables recoup a number of the monetary toll his fitness care prices took on his estate. Lovers will have the danger to very own a piece of Frank's history, turning his existence's work into cherished mementos in an effort to be handed down through generations. However, past the antiques, beyond the TV, fame Frank Fritz leaves in the back of something far more valuable. A reminder that lifestyles is about the journey, not simply the vacation spot. He confirmed us that achievement isn't pretty much how tons you earn, however, about how tons you love what you do. Or even in his struggles, he taught us resilience, humility, and the significance of in no way giving up, no matter how hard the street gets. Frank as soon as said, life is what you positioned into it. If you don't put a great deal into it, you do not get loads out of it. He positioned everything into his paintings, his friendships, and his passions, and at the same time as his fortune might also have dwindled in within the face of clinical bills. His impact stays priceless. His legacy lives on inside the treasures he found, the human beings he stimulated, and the infinite reminiscences he left in the back of, and at the same time as the road can also have been difficult. Frank wrote it with hearth humor and an unbreakable spirit that will by no means be forgotten.